Hey guys, welcome back to Arry The Staaaag. TR Tony here. Feel free to hit the subscribe button and join us on our wonderful journey of sharing the classic stream of Triumph Stags and lots of other classic cars as well along the way. This week, I'm going to look at one of our fans' cars. Actually, he's been in touch this week, a guy called Peter, and has sent in a few photographs of his beautiful old English white Triumph Stag. Means a great deal to him, as our cars all do to us, I'm sure, for different reasons. And so I'll just walk you through a little bit of background, the history and provenance. He's sent in a really nice long email this week, so I'll just talk you through some of the key points and see you at the end.
Okay, so here is the Triumph Stag. It is a Mark I car in beautiful old English white, and I think you'll agree it's absolutely stunning. Denoted in Mark I, of course, by the grey badging that you'll see on the grille and also on the rear wings. Now, Peter tells us that at the age of 82, he's still a bit of a daft as a brush, I think he actually said when he emailed us with his pictures, but it's great to see that he's got a great sense of humour and giving us the opportunity to see his car. And as he also said, he can't really give us too much history, but nevertheless you can see from the picture it's a very original vehicle, originally registered in Lincoln in 1971, and when he purchased it in 2013, reputedly it had only done minimum amount of mileage since the engine was rebuilt about the year 2000, so looks like a pretty up-together motor. And as he said, he hoped that the pictures he sent through are usable, and notes that this car is not concours, but he likes to think it's how a Stag might have looked at several years old. So it's got that drivable feeling about it. And now he's spent quite a few pennies on it over the years, and he's done a number of jobs, including recovering the seats, and recently had a rebuilt hardtop. And as Peter was saying, he's had various trials and tribulations of owning this particular Stag, and the first one, which will be I'm sure no surprise to anybody, is the fact that it was tending to overheat. So the first thing he did was to change the antifreeze, but it still got warm, particularly on tickover. He thought it was an airlock possibly, but found that difficult to eliminate it. He did do that, but it didn't improve. And then he noticed a build-up of dried antifreeze next to the water pump. And so he tightened up the hose connections to the pump, cured that as well, but still didn't solve the overheating problem. So ended up changing the thermostat, but still no change. So next step was to then change the radiator, no change. And in his quest for perfection, he went off to Boston Radiators, who removed the core of the existing radiator and put in a much larger one, where there's not a lot of clearance, as probably many of you know, between the viscous coupling and the much larger in width radiator now. But the problem was the viscous coupling bolt kept coming undone, fan and viscous coupling thus escaping through the radiator, which wasn't helpful, so he had to go back to Boston Radiators for a new core basically. And his solution, which not everybody would agree with, was to eventually get rid of the viscous coupling, and I know a few of you guys actually recommend that, and install an electric thermostatically controlled fan, and that seems to work really well. Now at this time there was a high street store that will all be known to us that was selling an infrared temperature gun, which meant that by switching the engine on to tick over and running the car for about 20 odd minutes to get the car up to temperature, Peter was able to adjust the temperature, if the memory serves him right, it was about 82 degrees, at which the electric fan would kick in, and this seemed to be the answer. A further help was also changing the coolant to Evans waterless coolant, and I know a few of you guys use that as well, and again changing the thermostat to suit that new scenario. And as he says, I bet by now you're thinking, what is this silly so-and-so been up to? Probably doing all this unnecessary work and having a big smile to ourselves. No, we're not actually, Peter. I think you've done a sterling job, and facing the typical challenges that we all face when we're owning one of these beautiful Triumph Stags. They take a bit of fixing, and you've done all the right things there. Well done. Now the next thing to worry about was, after months of owning the Stag, he started to notice some micro blistering coming through on the bodywork, and every time he washed the car, worse still, the paint was seeming to be coming off and at the bottom of the doors were looking a bit frilly. So he decided he'd trot off to his local restoration specialist, who is his go-to man, and the end result was that the car needed all the paint removing down to bare metal, and had to have the doors remade, the bottoms re-welded and put back together, and then repainted in the original Triumph paint code R19. Now, funnily enough, the same code is for the Rover. He's not entirely sure whether these codes are the same for the Stag and Rover. I will look into that separately, actually, Peter. And it was noticed and remarked on there that there was very little filler found on the bodywork originally, which was very good news. Now, a few years later, he did find a little bit of rot on the near side rear quarter, so he's purchased a good quality replacement section and had it cut out and refettled. And after 5 years, he's very pleased to report there's no evidence of the dreaded tin worm that many of us have to endure, as we know, with these cars. Turning our attention now to the interior of the car, the front seats had developed the usual sort of sag in the bolsters, and they were looking a bit sad indeed. So Peter decided he'd replace the covers and renew the padding, and basically the seats were rebuilt from scratch, and at the same time new seat belts were installed and fitted, as the old ones really were worn out. Remember, you're dealing with a 50-year-old vehicle here. The steering wheel was, in his opinion, too big. He really couldn't get his legs underneath it once he got into the car, and I sympathise because I'm a similar kind of height. So he purchased a smaller one. Now, there are smaller Stag steering wheels around. We've got one, and I'll just show you one as I'm talking. And that, in fact, gives a better feeling to the steering, given that it's not as big as the original one. And as ever, there's always something to do with these 50-year-old cars. You never seem to be quite on top of everything. There's always something that he's doing, and this year is no different. So he's planning to replace the front and rear shock absorbers, and knows that the front shock absorbers can be a bit of a so-and-so to do, which we have encountered with UES 591S. So I'll put up a couple of pictures as I'm talking of that job, and our garage local to us did do a really good job. He's going to replace the oil and filter, and he's doing that on a yearly basis. Also, he notes that the rear brake cylinders, he replaced them 2 years ago, and the brake master cylinder and the reservoir the same. The starter motor and screen wash motor and wiper blades, etc., have all been upgraded and changed, and he's very fastidious in terms of making sure he has an MOT done yearly, even though, as we all know, it's not necessary. I think it's a very wise choice. He's had a replacement Mark 1 hardtop, and the rear passenger complained she couldn't see out well enough. So that was interesting. There you go. The lady didn't like the hood down. It's the hair blowing around the wind, apparently. So you can't win either way, Peter. But there you go. And in summary, Peter finishes by saying that the Stag has given him very many happy memories, and getting up on a Sunday morning, packing up the Stag, and off he'd go to wherever, usually with some friends, or sometimes sitting in a field somewhere, sometimes warm and sunny and sometimes cold and damp, wondering what on earth they're doing there. The times they go away for the weekend, up and around all over the place, it's a joy to be out and about. And Peter finishes by saying that this Stag is so very personal to him, and it's very much a reminder of all the good times that he and his wife had together now that he's on his own. And what a fantastic story, Peter. I'm very sorry for your loss, and I'm so glad this car has given you such joy. Thank you very much for sharing it with us, and let's go back to the studio.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Just a quick whiz round Peter's beautiful 1971 Triumph Stag, and that glorious Old English white. I really think it suits the mark so well. Chrome and that kind of off-white colour is just beautiful. It really is. And let's celebrate what it actually means to us all. I think, you know, where we have our classic cars, we talk about sharing the classic stream. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The provenance and the history and what it means to us. these vehicles really do get into our DNA, don't they? So well done, Peter. Thank you very much for sharing that. We'll obviously send you a few bits and pieces to say thanks for sharing the Classics dream with us on your car. And for the rest of us, yeah, great. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate your input this week, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Always good to have some thumbs up. And join us on a Saturday for our Saturday Sockets email, which you know about. And also, if you haven't got one yet, an Arry The Staaaag badge of honour, tax disc-sized sticker that you can put on your windscreen and wear the badge with pride. And we send that free of charge anywhere in the world. So join us on that. And yeah, we'll see you next week, I'm sure. In the meantime, have a great week, and we'll see you online on Arry The Staaaag very soon. Cheers for now. All the best.